Okay, in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and create the Start Campaign page, which is indicated right here in our wireframe. Now, of course, we don't have the form elements. However, if we go to the client brief, we will find Start a Campaign. They want 3 form elements: campaign name and campaign URL, which will be in the context of a text field where people can just click and start typing in. And then also a budget based on a slider component, which is a type of form element that allows you to take a little dial and just, you can move it right or left with a mouse or even a keyboard. And so we'll design that custom as well. And then a call to action to submit the form, something that says something like launch campaign or start my campaign now or something like that. There's also going to be 2 columns as indicated over here. They wanted this text to be displayed prominently, so we'll have it right adjacent to the right of the form element, and that's all this page will be right here. So let's get started with that. One thing I did want to adjust real quickly is I'm going to double click here, move this to the left just because we had a little bit too much white space based on the size of these names here under add types. And now we can extend this out just a bit further. And that's looking pretty good. I could probably scale this in as well, right around. Let me make sure we get this correct. That looks pretty good right there. All right, there we go. Quite solid, and let's replicate this page for the next section. So for this one, it's going to be start your campaign. All right, and we could just reuse one of these elements instead of repeating the same one. So we can just maybe put this one here. Let's select this page, this frame first, and then just maybe put this here. Of course, we can change these other elements around as well. And so let's delete all these and get started fresh. So we have our form on the left, and we're going to reuse our same panel, I believe. So we'll take this panel and just copy it, select this frame, and then paste it, and get this lined up just like before on this left column. Sometimes there it goes. Now we could push this in, Control-Shift-4. We could think of how many columns we want this to be. I think we'll make this 7 columns, leaving 4 over here. All right, that looks good. Control-Shift-4 to toggle that off. All right, so now we're gonna have some type here, just kind of saying campaign information for this form specifically, and then we'll have the form inside of it. All right, so we'll get our type tool out, and we're going to say campaign information. Now, what is the problem here? A lack of typographic visual hierarchy. This is way too large, competing with our headline. So we're going to make this one smaller. So we'll see if we can change this to a different one. H2 is going to be a little bit too large, so we're going to create a new one, H for H3. So we'll try a size probably around 28 or so. And I like that size for this section right here. Let's add that as a type style, and we'll say type H3. Then we will go back to our topography section and put this right here. So our H3 is going to be now type H3. All right, so going back to our desktop design, we can create our very first form element, which means it's going to be a component that's also we're going to add to the component section of our design system. So for a text field, very important, we need a solid label and then the actual text field itself as well. So let's just copy this. We're going to move this in, good white space, even equal white space as well. And we're going to change this here to paragraph. Let's break this though and change it to bold. Actually, maybe we won't do that. Maybe we'll leave it just as paragraph. What is the size here? It's 20. Okay, that's perfectly fine for a label. So let us actually get that back and tie it to our style. And now we're going to have the label, the text field itself. So it's going to span all the way here from the right and left. You want to go too large like this, and you don't want to go too small like that. So there's a happy medium right here. And then we'll also bring in the corners here. I think around 4 is pretty solid. And let's see if we have existing colors in our style that might work well with this. I'd say that's too much saturation. I don't really like that one. This one, not enough contrast. So we could go dark like that, but I personally want to go a little bit lighter than this background. So what we'll do is just detach this. We'll take this color here and we'll simply just drag it up in terms of the lightness. So 20 for the lightness, this seems to work pretty well. If we go back to our design system here under color, we can see we have a 15 and a 25. We can add a 20 as well. So let's just duplicate this really quickly. Move this down. And we will change this to 20. And I'm going to go ahead over here back to desktop design. And we will add this. Click plus here rather. And primary color 20. All right, so that's looking good. And then we can come back to our components, or color rather, and take 20 and update that. So I believe that is this one right here. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this section, and we want to make sure these are aligned up right to each other where they need to be. Getting your white space based on the distance, between your label and your text field is also important. This looks pretty solid right here. And now what we can do is create a component out of this. So we'll create a component. All right, let's copy that, and then we'll refer back. Actually, let's copy both of these, and then we'll delete this original, and we'll come back to our components. And we could probably create a form element section as well right here. So the first one we'll say text fields. And the intention here that we're going to make is that any form elements are going to be using that background color. So if we go back to desktop design, we'll see we actually don't have this tied to a specific color in our styles, which we should do. I don't think any of these are over here. So if we take a look at this one, this isn't tied to a color as well in the color style. So we should do that. Looking at this, it says we're at 13. Could I probably bump that up slightly to 14? Or if we really want this at 13, we can leave that exactly as is. So let's just go ahead and add that to our color styles right here. All right, primary color 13. And then again, we can adjust this to select that, and then this as well. Primary color 13. All right, so if we go back to our components, we will take the background of this to our primary color 13 and then paste in this right here. Now we want to make sure this adjusts well, and it doesn't because it's pushing this label like that. So what we can do is we can extend this all the way, and there we go. All right, so that is our text field. So we're going to name this to text field, and we're going to go back to our desktop design, and we're going to type in text field and put this in. Perfect. All right, right there looks good. Now, before we do that, we want to go back to our component section, and we're going to create our variants, because remember, text fields and other form elements, they should have focus states as well. So we'll do that right here. So we're going to change this to default. That's already default. And then this one will be focus. So when you're focused, the primary way you usually indicate something being focused, like a text field, is to give it a higher contrast outline. So if we double click this, we can add a stroke here, and we could make it all the way white, or we could make it our primary color. We'll see if that works if we bump this up maybe to 2. And I think that will work. That will really give a good visual indicator that this particular element is focused on. So we could also change this to outside rather than inside, and we'll see how that works. So now we can go to prototype, push this in. This is on click, change to, make it instant, and that's fine. And then on click, we could change this one as well. So when we go back to our desktop design and we click play, and we click on this, there we go. Very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate that. So that's campaign information. We also need the campaign URL. All right, that works. And then also the slider. So if we go back to our client brief, they want a budget slider. So let's go ahead and focus on that. So we'll go back to our desktop design, and this time we are going to just copy, or not copy rather, we can just duplicate that and change it to our paragraph style. This is going to be budget. And inside of here, we're going to have our slider. So a slider will typically consist of a actual, I forget what the terminology for it is, a track, and then we want to use this same color here. Actually, that's not it. There we go. And we can create a pill shape out of this by just boosting this all the way up, so you can see it's rounded here. And then we actually need the little dot that people can grab and slide around. So for that, we'll just use an ellipse, and we'll center this onto it using our primary color, which would be a great way just to reinforce our colors here. And that looks pretty good right there. And then we have to put a value somewhere. And so we can right align it simply over here as a value, and maybe we say $200 based on their selection. And we can also make this bold. So we will change this to bold and also give it some color. We can use this option, or rather we want to use our styles over here. There we go. All right, that looks pretty solid. Again, you want to make sure it's lined up, and it was where it was before, right in line with here. Okay. And then finally, a call to action. And we already have a button for that. One thing I do want to adjust though, I noticed this. One way to make sure that you have equal white space within an actual container like this is we can convert this whole thing into a frame. So make sure nothing else is selected except for this. And so what we can do is right click frame selection. And if we select this element right here, we can now add, we can click on layout grid. And so that toggled on this grid as well, which is kind of annoying. We can just click on this and hide it for a second. But now this in and of itself has its own grid in which we can change to columns. And maybe for this one, we'll just do 8 or so. And now we can also give it some gutter. So the gutter, or margin, I'm sorry. Maybe we could do 40 pixels. Let's get it up to 50 here. There we go. Now we can see that if we want these elements to be aligned properly, we can get them right here. We can also pull these out. Pull this one out as well, and this one right here. So now we have, for certain, equal white space on the right and left. And of course you could do that up here as well at the bottom and top. So now let's go ahead and hide that. And then the final thing we'll do is get a call to action. So we will come over here to our assets, And we have our Start Campaign button right there. And I think we could just, maybe we'll change this to Launch Campaign. And remember, if you wanted to, you could always create a variation of this button, a variant rather, where this can have an icon over here. All right, so for the final thing, we are going to have an actual paragraph as denoted right here. So we're just going to take this right here, copy it, and we will paste it. Control-Shift-4. We need to first toggle on the visibility. All right. Now, sometimes if we put it right here, there would not be enough white space. So we can make that adjustment ourselves outside of the grid. So let's go ahead and change this style here to, let's see, I want to change the type style rather to paragraph. Color for now is just going to be white. We may change that, Control-Shift-4. We make sure that this goes all the way out though. There we go. And I just don't like the little amount of white space, so we can add white space ourselves. So something nice and comfortable right around here. And I'm thinking, because this is important information, I might want to put an icon. So we'll use Iconify, and we will put alert. Maybe we'll use this, and we'll make it an alert sort of color. Maybe a little bit more orange. Let's make it a little bit larger. And we'll put this right here and move this down. And let's look at our primary color 70. Maybe we can use the same for that. We can always experiment. So we can always search for this as well. So primary color 70 is right here. Me personally, I might think I just might want to use white for that. That way it has maximum contrast and sort of important. Okay, there we go. That is that page. So let's go ahead and move this up. And the add types page is now finished. As you can see clearly, we are coming along quite well. And in the next video, we are going to actually create the final 2 pages for desktop, which is going to be login and a contact form.